wearing a Jets jersey.
What Jets jerseys do you own?
I have a lot of old school guys because I haven't really found someone recently that I'm willing to like actually purchase a jersey with, if that makes sense. So, I'm just kind of doing the damn thing with like I got like an Eric Decker jersey, I got a Sam Darnold jersey, which I actually wore on the Super Bowl, which I was super happy about. At least I got to wear a Jets jersey on the Super Bowl. Yeah, that was pretty cool. What else do I got? I have a Brandon Marshall jersey. Trying to think. Sean Green, Mark Sanchez. A couple of ones there. Let's see. Albert Scott 7113 says, "What's good, guys? How you doing today?" I'm great. It's draft day. I think I could speak for both of us in saying that we're both pretty excited. I'm actually hosting a draft party at my house, and I'm super excited about that. This is the first draft party I'm having at my place, so I'm super happy about that. How about you, Josiah? What are you doing today?
I wish I had big plans. It's just gonna be. I think the wife's gonna pick up either some wings or some sandwiches, and just gonna sit and watch the draft and get angry that D'Angelo Pons is falling.
That's funny. Yeah, you mentioned before.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't. I don't remember where I was going.
I was gonna say you mentioned before. You wanted to talk about this. On live. You mentioned the Jaguars and everything. Tell me more about that. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. Are you buying the smoke screens? Because Mike Florio today came out and said that Jacksonville might be looking to get back into the first round and that they're using Brian Thomas Jr. as bait, which, look, I wouldn't trade Brian Thomas Jr. if I'm Jacksonville. I think I've been pretty vocal about that. However, he's been in a ridiculous amount of trade rumors throughout the entire offseason that it's like, all right, there feels like there's got to be some fire there. Like there's just too much smoke. I don't think Brian Thomas Jr. on his own gets you into the first round. You probably would have to give up 56 and Brian Thomas Jr. and try to get up into the first. I don't know. That Jacksonville roster, I think, overperformed last year. I think they're a good roster. I don't know if I would be willing to move one of the most explosive young receivers in the league to try and get back up. Now, unless you are potentially trying to get Jeremiah Love, which there's just no way that they're getting into the top 10 with this. So like, I don't understand those. The one team that made sense to me was San Francisco. If they were going to get up, I think San Francisco should be in on that because they brought back Trent Williams. I don't think there's a huge offensive line need. And I just don't know if I like any of the receivers there at 27 where you could get Brian Thomas Jr. and pair him with Ricky Pearsall. And I think that could be a really fun young duo. But I don't know. Are you buying any of it?
I mean, at this point, I don't really think I don't really think someone like Mike Florio would kind of just make something up just for the sake of making it up. It's sad. I mean, like, listen, like you said, there's got to be some kind of traction for something because Jacksonville had, the rumors of Brian Thomas Jr. being moved have been swirling all off season. The 49ers do make a lot of sense. Like you said, they need another wide receiver. That's pretty clear. Also, I have been seeing recently that it kind of looks like the 49ers might want to look to trade down. I don't know if they want to trade. I know they have 57. What do the Jags have? 52?
I think they've got 56.
56. They would have 56 and 57. I don't know how you feel about this, but I personally do feel like in a draft of this caliber, unless you're looking for like a specific position, I feel like there's enough depth in a lot of different positional groups where I would be pretty comfortable trading out of the first round and being in that like 57, 56, like having back-to-back picks. Because like I think the Niners especially are a team, especially if they get Brian Thomas Jr., we know traditionally they don't actually select offensive lineman really in the first round. I think the
Yeah.
last one they selected in the first one was like Josh Garnett, and that was like 2016 or something like that. And that was an obvious fail. So I think the 49ers are a team that like to prioritize offensive line in the middle rounds. Maybe getting more picks to kind of get younger. I mean, also the 2-year, $50 million extension of Trent Williams also tells me that that at least for me, it feels like they have no plans of going long term with a tackle right now. Like a
Mhm.
long term
Yeah.
play. Maybe they're looking for interior of the offensive line, and maybe that's a little bit later. But really, that's one of the teams that I genuinely don't really know what the draft plan is for. Same thing with the Jags. I mean, what would you be trading up for? Like you said, if it's not Jeremiah Love, are you trading up for like a Caden McDonald? You know what I'm saying? Because they definitely need a bunch of help on the defensive line. So like, what are
This
they
isn't
looking for?
this isn't something I would do, but again, where there's smoke, there's fire. Jadarian Price has been mocked in the first by some pretty respectable people. And now I would not take Jadarian Price round one, but could Jacksonville, whose biggest need I think is a running back and linebacker, could they move up for Jadarian Price and be like, you know what, we feel good about our receiving core now with Parker Washington having broke out last year. We traded for Jacoby Myers, and I know they say that Travis Hunter is going to play mostly on the outside. I'm not buying it. Or on the defensive side, I think they have to. You don't trade basically 3 first-round picks for a guy that's just going to be a corner. I just don't see how that would happen. So maybe they're like, you know what, we feel good about our receiving room. Let's just go get another dynamic runner because you lost Travis Achan. Like, I don't know. I don't like that because I just don't think Jadarian Price is a first-round player, but that was the player that came to mind. That's like, because I don't think he's getting there to 56. I think Minnesota takes him in the top 50. I think Houston could take him with their second-round pick. I think it's 38. So that one came to mind. Maybe they really love one of the linebackers like Jacob Rodriguez. Maybe they like CJ Allen, which would be a pretty fun Devin Lloyd replacement. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are the two players that come to mind.
Yeah, I want to answer this next question after I kind of throw a rebuttal to you. Yeah, I mean, first off, I know that we're probably in the same boat that I don't really think Jadarian Price is a player that I would trade up for. I would trade assets to
Yeah.
go up to. If someone like the Denver Broncos or the Seattle Seahawks want to take Jadarian Price, but sorry, the Broncos don't have a first round pick anymore. So say the Seahawks want to take Jadarian Price, all power to you. Go for it. I'm not moving assets to move up for someone like Price. I know that he's kind of like he's kind of a do-it-all back, and he could do a lot on special teams, but I'm not trading up capital, especially after. I mean, they still have Bashal Tutin, someone that I did read a report that Liam Cohen said he's going to have a really, really big role in this offense this year. So
I also
go ahead.
They did draft LaQuint Allen last year, which I know that was
Yeah.
a late pick, but LaQuint Allen is a good running back. I'm with you. I don't think I would do it, but we'll see what happens. This is the beauty of the draft. It's like we get here and it's like, there's all of these reports and we'll just get answers to everything tonight.
The next question here that I have is, how do you feel about Tyson's injuries? Obviously, Jordan Tyson. His injuries don't seem chronic. He messed up his knee, broke his collarbone, and the only chronic injury is recently with his hamstring. Yeah, I mean, to answer the question in the short term, I think he kind of sort of silenced that. Listen, you can't, in my opinion, even with players of injury history, you can't hear about drafting players because of injuries. Like, oh boy, Jordan Tyson's healthier now, but what happens if he gets injured? Every player is going to get injured. That's the name of the game. I know he does have an extensive injury history, but I mean, judging off of what I've seen and judging of the fact that there was 20 something teams, there for his private workouts, the interest is obviously there. I think those teams just wanted some reassurance on the fact that, maybe this guy isn't as explosive and isn't as athletic. And obviously, I mean, judging by some of the videos that we've seen, it obviously looks like he hasn't missed a step. So, I mean, like, is there a little bit of a worry in the back of your mind? Like, if Jordan Tyson was on the board at number 16 and, and the Jets had the pick and Roger Goodell went up there and said Jordan Tyson was selected by the Jets, I'd be absolutely thrilled. But in the back of my mind, especially because it's the Jets, I would think to myself just a little bit, I'd be like, oh boy, he's probably going to get injured at some point. But I think you just draft the talent. I mean, the talent is obviously there, and I think Jordan Tyson has the most upside of any wide receiver in this class, on top of being potentially the wide receiver one in the class itself. I think he has the biggest opportunity to be, that 1,400, 1,500 receiver type of guy. Whereas like Tate seems like the highest floor, or at least the safest floor. Lemon might seem like he might stick around in the NFL the longest due to, just his versatility and his really, really unique profile of being really good in contested catch situations, but also being less than 6 feet tall and stuff. I think he's another exciting player too. But I think Tyson, man, if he could just stay healthy, if those knees could just stay healthy and the hamstring injury could kind of sort of, rectify itself, I think you're looking at a surefire, at least multiple time Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Jordan Tyson for a long time. I think he was both of our wide receiver ones coming into the year. Now, I do think, like, I'm with you. On one hand, you can't ignore the injuries. Like, I have Lemon as my wide receiver one in the class, basically simply because of the injuries. But I will say this. I think the injury concerns with Tyson might be the biggest overblown story of the entire draft process, because everyone acts like, oh, Jordan Tyson, like if he could just stay healthy, if he could just be on the field. He missed 3 games this year. This is a guy that has over 2,000 yards or nearly 2,000 yards over the last 2 seasons. It's not like this is a guy that's just not on the field and like you have to worry about his like maturity and like different things like that. Like I think that a lot of that is overblown, and I agree with what Korg is saying in the comments section with the fact that not a lot of the injuries have any sort of they don't relate to one another. Like the hamstring, that's the most concerning one, but the broken collarbone, I'm not worried about that showing up again. He messed up his knee, I think, early on. Like, I don't really have a lot of concerns about these injuries really affecting his career long term. So, I mean, I would take Jordan Tyson in the top 10. If I'm the Giants at 5, I consider it. If I'm the Browns at 6, basically every team from 5 to 10, I think should be trying to add Jordan Tyson, because I'm with you. I think he's got the highest ceiling of any of these receivers. It's funny, we just talked about Brian Thomas Jr. That's my player comparison for him, at least Brian Thomas's rookie season. I love Jordan Tyson. I wouldn't let the injuries scare me. But I see another chat from Albert talking about, well, for the Bills, I hope we do. Maxwell Hairston's came in hurt and finished even more hurt. Ask the Cowboys how they feel about Savone Revel. I'm scared of hurt like Will Johnson now. I think the Cowboys are fine with Savone Revel. He was good when he was on the field for them.
Go ahead. My biggest thing is, I think also you have to take injuries into consideration for different positions as well. So you're looking at, Savone Revel was probably going to be one of the top corners in the class last year before the injury. I think, especially, like, I know this sounds silly, but when you're backpedaling most of the time and when you're moving backwards a lot, I think the ACL really comes like your ligaments come more into play than you would running straight line at someone like at a wide receiver. So I think for the guys that are highlighted like Savone Revel, like Maxwell Hairston, I think it takes longer for defense. I mean, look at Jermod McCoy. I know that he was probably taking it slow, but look at how long it's taken Jermod McCoy to come back from his injury. And then there might be a problem with his other knee. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I do think that what position you play also does have to factor into it, where I think for someone like Tyson, if the injuries do creep into consideration, at some point early on in his career, that's a player that you could kind of sort of scheme open in a lot of offensive systems as well. So, there are certain ways to go around physical limitations, but like you said, the injuries don't have anything really to do with each other. I'm not really concerned about it. Also, medicine has, right over there.
Yeah, just type in.
Oh, okay. I can't see your face. That's why I was like, what the hell's happening? I thought it sounded like a cat was going across the keyboard. I do think that I did kind of lose my train of thought there, but
talking about injuries on modern medicine.
Yeah, I think that ACL injuries, I've said it, I've been steadfast in my argument this whole, draft cycle that I don't think ACL injuries are what they used to be. It's almost like if you want to liken it to any other injury, it's almost like Tommy John surgery for baseball, where like, yeah, when a pitcher in the 90s and the early 2000s went for Tommy John surgery for the elbow, you were like,
Yeah.
oh my God, guy's career is over. Now you look at some of the
Mhm.
best pitchers in baseball had 2, 3 Tommy John surgeries on the same elbow, and they're still
I
playing
mean,
really, really well. I mean, it's a little different. I mean, the ACL, if you have to keep repairing it, you might have a degenerative problem at that point. But
yeah. I mean,
you
I'll
get what
say
I'm saying.
this.
It's not as scary of an injury as it used to be, is what I'm trying to get at there.
I mean, even to back up your point, like you look, I know different sport, different muscle groups, but basketball, like Jason Tatum tore his Achilles less than a year ago, and that a decade ago was an injury that was just career ending. He's back and looks just as athletic as ever. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think modern sports medicine is okay. And yeah, if there's degenerative knee issues, like different conversations going to need to be had. But I'm not concerned about that with Jordan Tyson in particular.
Another question here. It says, Draft Hub, how do you feel if our Jets took Arvell Reese, Dylan Thieneman, Emmanuel Pregnon, and Jeremy Bernard / Chris Bell and landed Justin Jolie at 103? If you can guarantee me that 4 or 5 right there, yeah, sign me up all day long for that. I mean, that's probably the best case scenario. If we're talking about Thieneman at 16, I mean, you have to wind sprint the card up to the podium. If I'm Darren Moogie, I'm calling in the name myself. I'm not even giving the card to Roger Goodell. I'm going
I'm
straight to the podium.
I'm truly stunned. Like we both love Dylan Thieneman. I like Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I'm shocked that that is not a more common pick to the Jets at 16, given their safety needs. I know they brought in Minka, who I think is actually going to be pretty good for them.
Yeah.
But I Thieneman in that Jets defense with Aaron Glenn kind of doing some of the stuff that Brian Branch did. I mean, come on. That would just be incredible. I would love that so much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still under and I don't, me, you've known me for what, 4 draft cycles now. I'm not a smokescreen guy, and more often than not, I'm kind of sort of proven right in that case. I still don't really buy into the David Bailey at number 2 hype. I'm gonna believe it when I see it. When Roger Goodell goes up there and announces David Bailey, then I'll believe it. But I still think Arvell Reese is the pick. I think I broke it down in 2 different ways. Maybe anyone who's a Jets fan that's listening could kind of weigh in what they feel as well. I think that, let's face it, even though Aaron Glenn is obviously part of this roster reconstruction right now, if the Jets don't have any significant progress this year, he's going to be out as head coach after this year. It's just the name of the game. Regardless of how the Jets finish this year, Darren Moogie is still going to be the general manager. You're not firing a general manager after 2 years. I think Aaron Glenn wants David Bailey for the pass rush upside right now, to make the defense better right now. I think Darren Moogie wants Arvell Reese to be able to develop a guy, because truly, I mean, if you look at Arvell Reese and you look at the strength, the size, the speed, you're looking at almost a Micah Parsons clone in terms of overall like measurables. So if you could develop that guy into the next Micah Parsons, I mean, you're going to try everything you can to do that. And I think, as much as I like David Bailey, I think it would be almost organizational malpractice to go against a player that is going to play the same position, that's 3 years younger and athletically is more gifted than the player that you're going to be taking. So that's just my 2 cents. Like I said, I'll be good either way. If the Jets go with David Bailey, I'm cool with that. If they go Arvell Reese, I'm cool with that. Personally, everyone who knows me knows that if I was GM, I'd still be taking Ruben Bain Jr. number 2 overall. That's just me. But yeah, no, I personally don't buy into the smokescreen. I do think that it is going to be Arvell Reese. And I think it should be Arvell Reese if you're going to go in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I like Bailey better as a prospect than I like Reese. I'm not a Jets fan, so like I can't add the same input that you and Ricky can. But Arvell Reese, I don't know. Yes, he's younger. Yes, he's a little bit more athletic. He's stronger. The upside with him is awesome. I just feel like I kind of am. I don't know. I could see it going either way. I think both of these picks would be great. I think I have more. I know what David Bailey's going to be as a pass rusher, whereas Arvell Reese, he didn't play off the edge. He's going to do most of his work off the edge in the NFL. Now the traits are good, like we've talked about. So we'll
I
see what
got Corey
happens.
calling me a Lions fan in the I am wearing Lions blue, so I guess it does make sense.
He's not beating the allegations.
Oh my god, and my hydro jug is blue too. Oh boy, it's over.
She might have cooked with that one.
Yeah, she might have cooked with that one. That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any other like big topics I want to like hit on. Oh, there was something I wanted to talk about. We talk about this every year, and I feel like we're let down every year, but this year feels a little different. I think there's going to be a lot of movement tonight on the draft boards. I really do, because of it being viewed as a quote unquote weaker draft class. I think people are just, especially on the offensive line, I think we're probably going to see 8 or 9 guys go tonight. And I think there's going to be a lot of movement. Like, I think Philly could move up for a lineman. Houston could move up for an lineman. Kansas City. Like, I just think there's going to be a lot of trades. So what do you think? Do you think there's going to be trading more than usual tonight?
I'm really glad that you said that, because I was thinking about it before while you were talking. For some reason, I drifted off into space to the right over here, my right, and I was like, I feel like there's going to be a lot of movement, and I think it's because of like the weird amount of talent in this draft class in certain areas. Because traditionally, I feel like let's take 2024 for example, right, where we had potentially the greatest quarterback class that we'll ever see in a draft class, where you had 6 guys go inside the top 11. We didn't see as much movement as we thought we were going to see. In this one, where it's kind of like the talent's a little bit all over the place, and there's a lot of talent in positions that you don't normally see teams draft particularly highly. Like, we see how many consensus guys we have 3 positions, at least I do. I have 3 positions inside my top 5 players that don't normally get drafted high at all. You got Caleb Downs, who's a safety. You have Sonny Styles, who's a linebacker, and you have Jeremiah Love, who's a running back. So you know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's going to be a lot of movement, especially on the back end. I absolutely think either one of 2 teams between the Jets or the Cardinals are going to trade up back into the first round to get Ty Simpson. I just think that's how it's going to work. I think one of those teams is going to pull a New York Giants last year with the Jackson Dart trade, and I think it's going to be something like that. I think there's going to be a lot of movement in the back end. There's a lot of teams at the back end that don't really have a ton of needs. Like, we talked about how many times the Houston Texans don't really have a ton of needs. And like, do they need their first round pick? Depending on how the board falls, I can guarantee that they're not going to pick a player just to pick a player. So that might be a team that trades out. The Bills like to trade out. The 49ers are a team that also are talking about trading out. And then, of course, we know it's fact that John Schneider for the Seahawks came out and said, he's like, listen, 4 picks is not good enough. We're going to look to trade back. So there's going to be a ton of movement in the back end.
Yeah, I'm with you. Ricky in the chat saying, who are your guys' favorite day 3 guys? Mine, Elam Zor, Barham, Zane Durant, and Devon Marshall. I would be shocked if Barham's a day 3 guy at this point. I feel like the hype has kind of shifted in the other direction. If we're talking day 3 guys that I'm pretty high on, I'll throw Jalen Husky in there, safety out of Maryland. I just love the athletic profile. He's really good against the run, has the ideal size, tackles very well. I really like him. I like Nate Borkacher out of Texas A&M a ton. He's one of those tight ends that I'm just willing to bet on. Excellent inline blocker. I think he's showed some real flashes as a route runner. In terms of other players that I really like, I'm a big Aiden Fisher out of Indiana guy. I think he's just really smart, really instinctive. He's going to be able to play around the ball. I would take him back into day 2. And then the last guy I'll shout out here is Matt Golban out of Michigan State. I just think he's such a steady rock in pass protection, and he's a guy that's going to be able to potentially start for you at center midway through his rookie season. So I'm a big fan of those 4 guys. But how about you? Who are some of your day 3 standouts?
I mean, he already mentioned Caleb Elamzor. That's one of my guys that I do think could actually sneak into the back end of round 3 as well, just due to the overall athleticism, coverage ability, run defense, good tackler. Jalen Husky is someone that you mentioned that I've been a huge fan of. Nate Borkature is actually a player that I've spoken with his dad on numerous occasions, actually, believe it or not. He reached out to me. It's really, I always mention it every time I talk about Borkature. He reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I saw you mentioned my son in a tweet. Like, that's really cool. Thank you." And I asked him, I was like, "Well, I'm a huge A&M fan." I was like, how does he enjoy life over there and stuff? And he was like, "Dude, it's awesome. Like, Kyle Field is like one of the greatest experiences ever." It was really cool. So I always had a little bit of a soft spot for him, but I think he's actually sneakily one of the better all around tight ends in the class. I
I'm
hate the
with you
fact
100%.
that he's going to be a little bit of an older prospect, but that's something. Remind me, I do want to go back around to talking about older prospects. Micah Morris is someone that I've been super high on for a really, really long time in this draft class as well. There's just so many names that you think to yourself right now that are zooming by. I like Justin Jefferson actually. I've
Yeah,
been kind of coming
good
around
call.
to the idea of Justin Jefferson being a really good coverage linebacker at the NFL level. Maybe this is super niche, but he reminds me of Kamar Gruger Hill. If you remember him, he played on the Texans. He played on the Detroit Lions. He was a specifically coverage linebacker that actually made a name for himself in being a special teamer and being a coverage linebacker. That's what Justin Jefferson reminds me of. Little undersized. That's super niche. I don't really know if a lot of people are going to get that, but it's a really, it's just, I think there's so many guys on day 3. JC Davis is another player that I like a lot out of Illinois that I think is super versatile, could play either tackle position, could play inside, play guard as well. There's a lot of guys that I'm really, really high on that I think I like Lewis Bond too. That's another player that I haven't really mentioned in a long time. I think Lewis Bond is a player that is probably might sneak into like 4th, 5th round consideration. That is a really exciting player. And you don't really see too many guys at a Boston College, especially on the offensive side, exciting players. But getting back around to older prospects, it's interesting because I think that we will start seeing a lot of older prospects in the draft. This is the first draft that we've seen a lot of 24, 25, some even 26-year-olds. I mean, look at, Nadeem Tucker is going to be 26. Rasul Faison is 26 years old. There are guys that are a little bit older prospects, in this draft class. And I think the NIL and the transfer portal have really, really kind of changed the way that we're looking at a lot of these players. Look at some of the guys that we're looking at in the early rounds. Like we'll take Akeem Mesidor for instance. He's 25 years old, and that's a guy that a lot of people have mocked inside the top 16. I think it's going to be a more common thing where we see a lot of guys closer to their mid-20s getting drafted really high. Whereas, like, I know you and I know 10 years ago, you wouldn't even touch those guys with a 10-foot pole. You're like, oh my God, this guy's 26 years old. You might as well give him a cane and a retirement party at that time. But now it's like these guys are just entering their physical prime at that point.
Yeah, I just the I think we're seeing it in all sports, kind of just the difference with the NIL era. I know I've been seeing a lot more of that in basketball too, but I actually do think there is going to be a shift too. I think Tyler Shuck last year is going to give teams a little bit more of a like, you know what? Yeah, he's older, but what he can give us right away is really valuable. And I think you're going to start to see a lot more of that. And I do think that age is becoming less and less of an important factor with a lot of these draft prospects because, like you talked about, their physical primes are right now. So I'm with you 100% on that point.
I think it's. I mean, listen, we could even take Dante Moore, for instance. Like, whereas every year, I feel like this year was one of the first years where we really didn't hear any rumors that like a player doesn't want to play for a certain organization. Like last year, it was Shedeur Sanders. Years before you hear about these top guys going like, yeah, I don't want to play for that team, or they never fully say it, but there are certain people in their entourage or their agents or even their fathers or mothers say they don't want to play for that organization. This year, we didn't really hear that at all. Except for a lot of people saying, Dante Moore only went back to school because he didn't want to play for the Jets. Listen, Dante Moore went back to school because they gave him $7 million to go back to school. You know what I mean? Like I would play in college until I'm 30 if they gave me $7 million a year, you know? So you're going to see a
Yeah.
lot of guys who I think are going to hold out for those better teams to be, there's always teams. Like look at KC for instance, right? Like when was the last time KC drafted, inside the top 10? There's always one or two teams every year that just don't meet expectations and then they wind up, with a higher draft pick than usual. And who knows? There are a lot of teams, there's a lot of quarterbacks next year that are going to come out that could be first round talents. Like there's going to be a lot of teams that might be looking for quarterbacks. So it's two-faced for me for Dante Moore. It's maybe he didn't want to play for the Jets, but he also wanted to go back to school and make $7 million and potentially get drafted by a better team next year. You know what I'm saying? So like I think you're going to see that a lot too, where we get a lot of word of mouth that top prospects don't want to play for certain organizations. I don't think we're going to be hearing that a lot more. I think they're just going to stay quiet. They're going to make their money in college, and then they're going to hope and pray that when they do enter the draft, that they're going to get to a better team, quote unquote. I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Dante Moore. He might still get drafted by the Jets, but you know what? He's $7 million richer. And then he could still make all that money with probably a top 5 pick like he would have. I think they averaged it out. I think he said no to like $50 million this year, but he's making 7 this year, and then he's going to get the same exact contract next year. The slot value only goes up year after year. So if anything, he's going to be making more money.
Yeah. Another question that I wanted to bring to the table here. The Jeremiah Love at 3 conversations have been loud over the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this a little bit in our 7-round stream. I think it would be organizational malpractice if you take Jeremiah Love at number 3 overall. As much as I like Jeremiah Love, the player, I don't know how you look at that Cardinals roster where they need another pass rusher. They desperately need offensive line. They need off-ball linebacker, quarterback. And they're like, you know what? We're going to go running back here and pass on all of these other needs and potentially these trade offers from teams that want to move up in this class to take a running back, which is the number one best strength on their team, probably, with James Conner, who they were able to work out an extension with. They end up signing Tyler Algier, who is one of the more underappreciated players in all of football. You still have Trey Benson on his rookie deal, who I think they've kind of moved on from, but he's still there. You brought back some of the other young pieces that they have. They have 5 running backs on their depth chart right now, and they would take Jeremiah Love at 3 over either a Bailey or a Reese or a Reuben Bain or a Sonny Styles, or even just reaching on a tackle. How would you feel if Arizona makes this pick? And is this a pick that you think they are going to make?
I can't, me, I'm not a very critical person of, I'm more of a, at work, I'm known as Positive Pete when I'm at work, because I always try and look at the glass half full. I mean, if we're looking at the glass half full on a Jeremiah Love pick at number 3 overall for the Cardinals, I mean, we're looking at potentially the best overall playmaker in the entire draft going to an offensive-minded coach at number 3. So it's no guarantee. I mean, James Conner was a reworked contract, for one more year, essentially. Tyler Algier was a 2-year, $12 million deal. So it's that's not really bell cow money. I'm not really concerned. Trey Benson at this point, what is he going to be entering year 3 or year 4? At this point, you can't stay healthy. You're kind of a lost cause. Bam Knight, Michael Carter, these guys are not guys that are going to usurp a Jeremiah Love on a depth chart. So really, if this is the direction that they want to go in, I'm fine with that. I think he's a top 5 player in the class. And this might be one of the only draft classes that I wouldn't even bat an eye if a running back went number 3 overall. Like we talked about before, there are some really good players in positions that don't traditionally get drafted high. Would I call it malpractice? Maybe not. I wouldn't think that it's like the greatest pick, because they still have so many needs on the offensive line that you're like, great, you have Jeremiah Love. Who's going to block for him? You know what I'm saying? Like that's not great. But at the same time, you got to start somewhere. It's just a matter of where you pick. Do you start on the offensive line? Do you trade back? Like, if the Jets do take David Bailey at number 2 overall, you have to figure either the Dallas Cowboys or the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be a couple teams that are going to call the Arizona Cardinals to move up to number 3 overall. And then if you get number 9 or number 12, you're probably looking at maybe a Francis Mauigoa at that point, or even a Spencer Fano. So, that's like best case scenario right there.
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome. And then I actually made I did my final mock of the season 2 days ago. And I actually had the Arizona Cardinals having 3 first round picks. I
did
traded
all.
back. Yeah. So I think I had them taking, what did I have them taking? Mauigoa, Caden McDonald, and then trading back into the first round to take Ty Simpson for the 5th-year option. So I think that's how I had it. And I think it could kind of work out very well for them. It's noted that that Monty Osiford is looking to be aggressive. He's looking to trade down, and he's going to work hard to try and trade down. And you know what that tells me? If you're working hard to try and trade down, you have players that are on your radar, and you're also willing to take less. Now, I don't know if you're in the same boat as me, but if I'm putting it out there, if I'm like, hey, everyone, I'm looking to trade down from number 3, that tells other GMs that, hey, they're just looking for more picks. Hey, maybe they don't love what they see at the top of the draft. So why am I going to trade up to number 3 overall? Who am I looking at? And how much am I willing to give up for this team that obviously doesn't even want to pick in this selection? You know what I'm saying? So, like, I think the Cardinals might be willing to take less to move down to, like a number 9 or even a number 12. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
It really all relies on the Jets. If the Jets go Arvell Reese, I think the trade rumors kind of cool down. I think if they take David Bailey, I think they revamp right back up, because I think the Cowboys have interest in David Bailey. I think they have way more interest in Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles. So I think regardless, they're going to be trading to look to move up to number 3 or even number 4. But if I'm Tennessee, I'm chilling at number 4, and I'm just taking the best player available that lands to me, which I mean, knowing Robert Saleh and watching him coach the Jets for a number of years, I'd say Sonny Styles is probably the pick at number 4 for him. That's just me.
Yeah, I would love Styles. I would hate Styles in Tennessee, but I would love Styles in Tennessee. Sean says Giants should take Jordan Tyson at 5. I'm with you. I don't think he's going to be on the board for them at 10 if they don't take him at 5. And if they really believe in Jordan Tyson, I think that's where you do it. I said off topic, but can't wait until Jeremiah Smith comes out. I just released my 2027 draft website. Jeremiah Smith is my early number 1 player, and the tape is even better than you think. He is truly a generational talent. And I know we said that about the other Ohio State receiver. Jeremiah Smith is really, really, really good. I did want to talk about, there was another, the Dallas Cowboys. Every year they seem to make every headline, and they seem to do the wrong thing. And this year's no different, where you have Stephen Jones saying, yeah, George Pickens is playing on the franchise tag next year, and basically puts to rest any discussion of them working out a contract extension. I wouldn't be shocked if George Pickens is traded at this point. I think everything's on the table. But from other reports, Dallas could look to come up for a receiver, which would be very, very interesting to me. I think that they would love Carnell Tate. Just kind of, he's got a very similar play style to Pickens. And Jerry loves his Ohio State players. But what do you think? Do you buy it? Do you think that they're actually gonna keep Pickens on the tag and not work out a long-term extension, or where are you at with that whole conversation?
I mean, it's funny because the contract extension that Pickens was looking for this offseason was less than the franchise tag. So I'm curious as to why the Cowboys aren't as willing as we would think to extend him. Now, my thing is that you could justify spending, I don't even know what the franchise tag is for a wide receiver. It's probably like 30, 32 million, something like that. I could see not really being keen on justifying, almost $70 million to the wide receiver position between 2 guys. I could see that. And maybe that's the Cowboys thinking that they're smart, going, yeah, he'll play on the franchise tag. It's just 1 year of all this money allocated to the cap. Maybe we'll trade him or something like that. I don't really buy it. I think Pickens has definitely proven, at least this past year. I know CD Lamb was injured for a decent amount of the year. Kind of looked like the
Mhm.
better receiver than CD Lamb in that offense. So maybe
Yeah.
we're thinking about long term. Maybe they're going to extend Pickens. Maybe they're going to trade CD Lamb. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't keep it's. We want to talk about fiscal irresponsibility, and you want to talk about organizational malpractice. Paying two separate wide receivers $35+ million might be the most egregious organizational malpractice that you could do. You know, that's just completely hindering your
Yeah.
cap. And then you're paying Dak Prescott 60 on top of that. Like that's what, $130 million allocated to three players. That's insane. You can't do that. You just physically cannot
I
field a 53-man football team like that.
Yeah. We went live on Saturday, and that evening was the big Dexter Lawrence trade. How do you feel about that trade? Because I've seen so many people complain about this trade from Cincinnati's standpoint. We talked about it during the draft, during our stream. I don't see how this is a bad move for Cincinnati at all. I think it's a home run for both teams involved. But where are you at on this?
So I kind of see both sides one way. So let's take a look at it from the Cincinnati side. So immediately, if you're completely okay with parting ways with a top 10 selection for a 29-year-old defensive tackle, that means to me either one of two things. You weren't really sold on any of the prospects that are going to be in your range, or you were desperately trying to trade down from that spot and you just had no takers. So the fact that this was a straight up number 10 for a 29-year-old Dexter Lawrence tells me that the Bengals were essentially just going to take a punt at number 10, and they were just going to be like, well, it's best player available at whatever position it is, because that's all that we can get. And then from the fiscal standpoint, it does kind of suck that they gave him a 1-year contract extension, so he's good through 2028. I think that suffices. If you can get 3 good years out of Dexter Lawrence, so they have Jonathan Allen, they have Dexter Lawrence. That's a really good yin and yang, because you have Allen, who's going to bring a lot as a pass rusher, regardless of how old he is. He's going to bring a lot as a pass rusher. And then you have Lawrence, who's hopefully going to bounce back from a pretty bad year, at least statistically. So I like it. It shows aggressiveness in an area that we've never seen the Cincinnati Bengals show aggressiveness before. So I like it. I think it's good. It just tells me that they didn't really like anyone in that range, and that's fine, because at the end of the day, if you look at it, you're looking at a multiple-time All-Pro that you just got for the number 10 overall pick. You essentially selected Dexter Lawrence at number 10 overall. So I like it. I initially liked it a little bit more because I didn't actually realize that Lawrence needed a little bit of a contract extension, but then they gave him the 1-year extension, which essentially has him under contract for 3 years. And I think that's more than fine. This is probably still the Super Bowl window. 3 years is probably the Super Bowl window for the Bengals, as long as everyone stays healthy. The defense is obviously, I wouldn't say completely revamped. The defense is definitely way better than it was. Like you said, you added Jonathan Allen, you added Boye Mafe, you added Dexter Lawrence to trade. The defensive line is going to be much, much better. The secondary looks young, looks fast. A couple of pieces on day 2 and day 3, and that defense should probably be right as rain for at least way better than it was last year. And then from the Giants standpoint, it is just a chef's kiss home run. You got rid of a disgruntled player that wanted way more money out of you. Granted, now that the defensive line was in need before Dexter Lawrence was traded, now it's a massive need. Now you're looking at offensive line, defensive line being two pretty big needs. But they obviously have the draft capital to take care of a lot of the needs that they have, and that's awesome. You get a big contract off the books, you get a disgruntled player off the books, and you get a top 10 pick in this year's draft class, where it's not inconceivable that you could land a Sonny Styles and a Caleb Downs at 5 and 10. I mean, that would just be like, I don't think there's enough pluses I could put next to the A in my first round grade for the Giants if they were able to pull something like that off.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, incredible deal by the Giants and kind of what they were able to do. also think it's just a good deal for Cincinnati. This is
Yeah.
probably the best Cincinnati roster they've had in the Joe Burrow era. Like the defense looks significantly better. We'll see what they're able to do at pick 42. But you've got Dexter Lawrence. You bring in Jonathan Allen, like you said. The secondary played well last year, and you add Brian Cook to the mix. They add Boye Mafe. Like that's a good. It is a much better defense. So I'm excited. I like that for Cincinnati. Bengals hoping they got their new Geno Atkins is what Ricky is saying.
Geno Atkins should be a Hall of Famer, by the way. I don't know if anyone agrees with that, but if you look at the overall consistency of his career and the peak, you're looking at like an 8-time Pro Bowler, like 8 consecutive years, like great pass rushing defensive tackle. That's someone that definitely should be in a sport where the peak of your performance really isn't that long. If you could perform at that level for 8 to 10 years straight,
Yeah.
I think you're probably a Hall of Famer. But just a little sidetrack. I always said that Geno Atkins and Harrison Smith should be 2 surefire Hall of Famers that we might never see in the Hall of Fame. So
yeah, I'm curious about the Harrison Smith case because I think he's got a pretty strong, compelling case as well. But I'm not a voter, so it doesn't really matter what I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, the guys who have votes probably
other
shouldn't be voters either. So, but that's another conversation for another day. But
good point.
I mean, while we're on the subject, let's talk about the Vikings. I mean, probably the most bare bones defense in the NFL when you look at overall depth. John Abraham is a Hall of Famer. I absolutely agree with that as well. He was also someone that was able to do it into his mid-30s. So that's another thing too, from a very, very physically demanding position. John Abraham was great up until he retired. So I do agree with that 100%, Ricky. The Vikings have a very bare bone defense, and we talked about it during our live mock draft. I kind of feel like running back absolutely has to take a third row seat to the defense at this point. I don't think that you could justify, taking a running back within the first 3 or 4 selections for the Minnesota Vikings. I think you have to hammer the defense. It has to be best player available on the defensive side because you have holes everywhere. The defensive line definitely needs to be upgraded. Really, the only position I'm willing to upgrade on the offensive side right away is probably the center position, depending on who's there. And really, no center speaks out to me until probably I think they have 2 day 3 pick, 2 third-round picks, if I'm not mistaken. It should be either one of those. Let me actually see. I think can you see if you click on this? I think you might be able to. I don't know. No, I can't. That's okay. You would think I know how to work this website. I use it literally every day. You think I would know, but I don't. The Vikings defensive line is huge for them too. They cut Javon Hargrave as well. That was kind of a failed experiment. So, you're looking at what? Levi Drake Rodriguez is like your best defensive lineman right now, your best down defensive lineman. That's rough. Linebacker, they re-signed Ivan Pace and Eric Wilson. Eric Wilson's great. He's also 29 turning 30. I had no idea that he finally broke out in the NFL at 29 going into 30 years old. So that's also something that you need to get younger and better at the position. They need a pass rushing linebacker. They need secondary help outside of Byron Murphy. I mean, I think the Minnesota Vikings front office is just kind of relying on how good Brian Flores is as a defensive coordinator, that he's just able to turn anyone into a great player. And proof is in the pudding. He's done that the past few years, but at some point the luck has to run out. And, they need to definitely replenish. I think you're probably looking at defensive line or corner as your first pick, unless Dylan Thieneman falls. And I'll be honest with you, if Dylan Thieneman's on the board and he gets past the Jets at number 16, I don't care who they select at number 16. I'm going to be very, very upset about that. That's a rough one there, but yeah, the Vikings are certainly an interesting team. I have an interesting mix of friends coming over. So I have it's me, I'm a Jets fan. And then you have my best friend is a Vikings fan, Giant fan, Chiefs fan, Steelers fan. And then I have another Giants fan coming too. So pretty interesting mix of fans. So I like that because we're all going to be rooting for different things. But yeah, I'm super excited to see what the Vikings do. My friend who's a Vikings fan is the most pessimistic fan ever, and it's so funny. Like it's the funniest thing ever. It doesn't matter.
I feel like every Vikings fan.
They could take Jesus
I feel like
Christ
every
number
Vikings
18,
fan.
and he would just be like, "Great, he's gonna get injured." It's like
Yep.
that's the type of like pessimistic behavior that he has. It's great. But and then the Chiefs fan is just like, "Listen, I'm just happy to be here." He's like, "Oh boy, I'm excited for draft night because I haven't had a top 10 pick in like 15 years." And I'm like, "Screw you, buddy." Like that's all I've been living in is that the only way that we can get out of the top 15 is with trading with the Indianapolis Colts. It's the only way that we can get out of the front end of the first round.
Don't rub it in. Don't rub it in.
Now, if there was ever listen, I don't know how Darren Moogie squeezed 2 first-round picks out of.
See, that's the part. That's the part that like I keep going back to. It's like, all right, I'm fine trading Sauce for this year's first, like whatever. Next year's first really hurts. I was like, oh man, this because there's a chance that this season next year is an absolute disaster for us. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not ruling that out, especially with how bad at the second and third level of that defense looks right now. Like Sauce is good. I don't know if Kenny Moore is going to be there. We're relying on Justin Wally, who didn't play at all as a rookie. Charvarius Ward, who's dealt with concussions. Like the secondary could still be pretty weak, even with the Sauce trade. It doesn't matter that they don't have a first round pick. Just something Chris Ballard isn't going to screw up. So that's nice. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm just praying that Jacob Rodriguez is on the board at 47. That's the dream.
That would be awesome.
Hey guys, who do you believe the Giants take at 5 and 10? I think Jordan Tyson at 5. I'm kind of gonna buy into the smoke screens there. I think Jordan Tyson's gonna go at 5, and then at 10, one of either Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles. If he's on the board, I would be shocked if he is. And I think Venga Ioane is in play for the Giants at pick 10 as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. I really do think I think the Giants roll the dice. I think that they kind of have their idea of who they're drafting at number 5, and I think it is a defensive player. I think it's either Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs. And I think that they got the number 10 overall pick so they don't miss out on one of those wide receivers. So I mean, it's very possible that right after the Giants take one of those defensive players at 5, that the card is run up to the podium and Jordan Tyson is the next pick for the Browns. That's certainly possible. But you have to figure that you got to kind of play luck of the draw. I mean, they're going to get one of the better wide receivers in the draft at number 10, even if they do. And maybe if all 3 of those guys are gone, they still end up with a fantastic consolation prize in Venga Ioane, or maybe even, who knows, maybe even Caleb Downs or Sonny Styles squirts out to, that was a crazy way to say that. I'm sorry. Gets down to number 10. That squirts out was crazy. I don't even know why I thought of that, but maybe one of the maybe Sonny Styles falls to 10, or maybe vice versa, maybe Caleb Downs. So I just think it's a beautiful problem for the Giants to have, that like it's like, oh boy, we'll get one of these great players, whoever falls. That's a wonderful thing to have. Someone actually brought up a really funny, I saw on Twitter the other day. It was a conversation. It was like, if the Giants and the Jets did a trade, number 2 and number 16 straight up to number 5 and number 10, would you do it? And I'm like, yeah, I would do that in a heartbeat. Of course I would take 5 and 10 over 2 and 16. I mean, that's just me. I mean, you're getting 2 top 10 players, and it gives the Jets so much more room to do what they want to do, because at 16, it's a very real possibility that at 16, every position that the Jets are looking for at that point is gone. Like, it's very plausible that your best wide receiver that you're looking at that point is Omar Cooper Jr. And it, at 16, I hate it. Like, if it was a little bit, if they traded down and maybe at like 23, 24, 25 or something like that, they got him, that's cool. I'm cool with that. But at 16, I'm not really a big fan of it. And, that could be your best case scenario, or you could be looking at a very injured Jamad McCoy, and then what do you do at that point? So I would 100% rather have 5 and 10 than 2 and 16. I'm probably in the minority on that, but I just think it gives you so much more room to kind of see exactly which way you're going to take either pick, because the Jets have no room to know what they take at number 2, because Fernando Mendoza is the number 1 pick. That's it. You already know. It doesn't give you any room to kind of
imagine Vegas. Imagine Vegas throws every single person a curveball, no buzz, nothing, and they just trade the pick. Would be a generational draft moment. It really would. It won't happen.
So my question to you would be, who would you take at number 1 if it wasn't Fernando Mendoza?
Oh, I mean, Sonny Styles is the top player, but I'm not taking a linebacker at number 1 overall. Jeez, it would probably be. I know I said I like David Bailey better at 2 for the Jets, but I would probably take Arvell Reese at 1. Probably, just because of the youth, the athleticism, the power. I think ceiling wise, like it's the Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson debate all over again. I think Arvell Reese would go number 1, but I was just thinking about this. Like, if the Raiders were to trade it, how much would Arizona, like, realistically try to give up to come up to pick 1 to get Mendoza if he's on the table? I can't believe we're entertaining this thought, but like, they obviously give up pick 3. You probably give up your second rounder this year as well. Do you give up anything else? Like, because the asking price would be high.
I don't know. I actually thought about this. It's funny how what we're talking about now kind of is like what was going on in my head when I was at work. I must have messed up every single job that I was on today at work, because I just obviously wasn't thinking about work. I could care less about what was going on there today. I woke up and like sat up in my bed and I was like, it's draft day. It was like 5:30. I was like, let's go.
Yep.
I thought to myself, I was like, the Raiders are so keen on taking Mendoza number 1 overall that if the Jets came out of nowhere and were like, yo, we'll give you 2, 16, 33, and 44 for number 1 overall, I feel like you kind of have to take that. No, like, is Fernando Mendoza this good? I mean, let's face it. All right, let me ask you a follow-up question. I know this is super early in next year's scouting. Where does Fernando Mendoza fall into next year's draft class?
Probably QB2. I would probably have him just below my guy Drew Mestamaker. But there's a debate there, I think. I'd still have him ahead of Dante Moore. I saw people were upset. Like, I guess Bleacher Report did like an all eligible mock draft. Like, what would happen if every player was eligible? And they had Arch going number 1 this year to the Raiders. I'm like, I don't think that would be the case. I still think Mendoza would be the number 1 pick.
I'd agree. I think
Mendoza would be 1A, 1B for next year. But it is ceiling wise, there's more of a conversation. Like, you've got CJ Bailey in the mix. You have Arch Manning in the mix.
That's my thought. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, ceiling wise, like, I feel like out of basically every quarterback right now that would be draft eligible, I feel like you'd probably win quicker with Fernando Mendoza. But I feel like his ceiling is certainly limited to what he could do at the NFL level. I mean, he's definitely mobile. Like, there's no Peyton Manning or Eli Manning type of, or Phillip Rivers type of pocket passer anymore. Those archetypes cease to exist. You're not just going to stand back there and just pick apart defenses anymore. You have to be able to, escape pressure, maneuver the pocket, and keep your eyes down the field and be able to make off-platform throws. That's just the way. It doesn't matter how athletic you are, you have to at least have that ability. But I think if you're talking about athleticism, there's probably, how many quarterbacks before Fernando Mendoza over the next 2 years ahead of him? You're probably looking at almost everyone at that point that's ahead of him, kind of, sort of. So
I'll tell you this: the best quarterback in the country next year, I don't think is even going to be draft eligible next year. That's my hot take. But
I know who you're gonna say. Go ahead, say it. I know who you're gonna say.
Who is it?
No, I want you to say it first. I'll tell you if it's not who I'm thinking.
Who's it?
No, I want you to tell me.
It's not Bryce Underwood. I'll say that. It's
no.
It's Jaron Kiavis Tagovailoa.
Yes. Yeah, I knew that's exact. I know you've been saying that
That dude is
I'd be inclined to
unreal.
almost sort of agree with you, and so I'm not really too far off on that either. That's something that's certainly
he's
not out of the realm of possibility. I think you're kind of sort of onto something there with that. Lenora Sellers' ceiling. Lenora Sellers did himself such
his ceiling is still insane.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I wasn't even going to mention his ceiling yet. I was just going to say he did himself such a disservice by going back to South Carolina in terms of overall talent around him. I would have loved to see him go to like Miami. I think he would have been like Cam Ward 2.0, maybe even better in Miami. It's tough to say because everyone forgets just how athletic and just how good Lenora Sellers is because he's just, anemic in that offense. So I think the ceiling is still, I hate to compare him to like a younger player. I would say he's probably, I was going to say Caleb Williams, but I don't think that's accurate. I think Caleb Williams is probably way better than what Lenora Sellers will be at the NFL level. Maybe a watered down version of Caleb Williams. I don't really think anyone in the NFL has the arm that Caleb Williams has. And by that, I just mean that just the overall impressive throws that you see from Caleb Williams day in and day out. And you're just like, how the fuck did he complete that? Is something that's kind of otherworldly. I'd say maybe a more athletic Caleb Williams in terms of he's able to maneuver the pocket better. He's a bigger, faster, stronger version of him, but maybe in terms of arm talent, he's a little bit less. It's kind of tough to say. I haven't really done once I heard Lenora Sellers was going back to school next year, I kind of sort of was like done with him on the year. I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to look at him until, the 2027 draft cycle. So I kind of really forgot about him, but he's certainly athletic. And I mean, that NFL teams are going to fall in love with those traits.
His ceiling is still like insanely high. If we're talking from a ceiling perspective, and like he's also still a relatively young guy. Like I'm with you though. Like I think right now, early on, I've got him as like QB7 for next year, just because like I went all in on him this offseason. It didn't really work. He went back to South Carolina. I know they brought in a new offensive coordinator and everything, but it's the TCU coordinator who runs like a very spread RPO system, which I just don't really think is going to maximize the skill set that Sellers has, just the way that offense is run. So I don't know. The ceiling's high. The question is just, can he hit that ceiling? And I'm a little bit more pessimistic when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to see the development with Shane Beamer in South Carolina. You're just never going to see it. Yeah. Let's take this in a little bit of a different direction. You're going to hate this. I'm going to undo both of these picks. You're going to roll your eyes and you're going to hate me. Let's do this mock draft based off of how handsome these guys are.
Oh boy, why did I You're right. Oh man.
Because I genuinely don't know.
I don't even know
number one overall.
This is a good question. Who does go number one? I'll tell you who won't go number one. Actually, no, I'm not going to be mean. I just don't want.
He's a handsome guy.
Kenyon Sadiq, handsome guy.
The funny part is it could be someone that we don't even like really remember what their face looks like. It could be someone that's ranked like 500 and we would have no idea.
Yeah. I think Jordan Tyson's a good looking guy.
I was just thinking, I saw his name and I was like, Jordan Tyson's pretty handsome too. All right. We go Jordan Tyson, number one overall. People are going to tune into this and be like, why is Jordan Tyson number one overall? Jets. Jeremiah Love is pretty. I mean, Fernando Mendoza.
I apologize to anybody watching this. Carson Beck. Oh, we didn't talk about that.
Oh yeah. Actually, you know what? Yes.
If Carson Beck goes round one tonight. If Carson Beck goes round one tonight,
put his agent's jersey in the Hall of Fame. If that's the case. That's the
that
only way
is
that
about 10 times more egregious than Nicole Strange first. I don't even know what I would do. I'm on the third floor of my apartment building. There's a good chance I'm jumping off my balcony if Carson Beck goes round one. Truthfully, I would be stunned.
Yeah, I can't.
The only team that would even make any bit of sense is Pittsburgh at 21. And while I know they won't do it and they shouldn't do it, it doesn't make sense for anybody. If they took him in Pittsburgh where the draft is being held, I think there's going to be a mutiny in Pittsburgh.
I think you'd have to cancel the rest of the draft. I don't think you'd be able to. I think they would
genuinely. You might have to.
What I was gonna say was that
you think people would be able to tell a difference.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll remember it.
I was just gonna say, like, if this was the Carson Beck before the elbow injury, before somehow forgetting how to maneuver his feet in the pocket, and before he lost all zip on his overall pass, I'd probably say that it wouldn't be like, it would still be a bad pick, but it wouldn't be the craziest pick. I mean, at this point, what does he offer you as an NFL, as a starting quarterback in the NFL? Like, I don't think he offers you really anything at this point. He's got cement blocks for feet at this point. He's got a pool noodle for an arm. I mean, like, I don't want to sound like I'm really just like crapping on the guy, but truly, like, what does he bring to the table?
Nothing. Like, genuinely, I don't think he brings anything. And on top of that,
did you
I know,
see that
what comment you're laughing at. Yeah, I see it. I see it.
Oh, that's unreal.
He's also got like a terrible attitude, and like, I would hate to have that guy in my locker room. What I was gonna say is this: do you think that the fans in Pittsburgh would be able to tell a difference? Like, let's say Carson Beck is in attendance for the draft. Roger Goodell calls his name. Do you think people would be able to tell a difference between if it was Carson Beck that came up and shook the commissioner's hand or Paige Becker's? Because I don't know if people would be able to tell a difference.
Oh, wow. No, I don't think
they have the same face.
I think that they would be so irate, first off, besides for the fact that they have the same face, they would be so angry that I think that they would just all see red and they wouldn't even like they'd have to cancel the ESPN broadcast. Like, it would have to be over after that.
Can you? Oh man, what if the Browns took him at 24? Oh man, the Mel Kiper crash out would be generational.
I'm just so happy that Reese Davis last year basically just told them to shut the fuck up when he was just like, every pick that was going by, he was like, Shadar Sanders is still available. And he was just like, yo, dude, shut up. He was like, just stop talking about it. And that was
one of the worst drafts that I've ever like watched, just because of that. Like, it genuinely ruined all excitement for the draft.
LGBT
like, Cam Ward goes number 1 overall. It's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be like this great moment for Cam Ward and his family. And then you got old Mel over there just, well, I would have taken Shadar Sanders. And my favorite part is he's victory lapping Shadar Sanders at this point and saying he's a great quarterback.
I mean,
I don't know. I watched a lot of Browns games down the stretch just because I am a Colorado fan. And like, I want Shadar to be good. He was not good last year. Like, let's not fool ourselves.
Just off of the Jimmy Clausen comment and the fact that he had Mitch Trubisky ranked as his like number 1 overall quarterback that year too. I mean, I saw a tweet today that was perfect. It was like, I can't wait to see what like outlandish thing Mel Kiper is wrong about again this year, because it's true. Like, the guy is just always wrong. Like, I have never, and granted, I haven't really thought about this too much, but I've never sat at my desk right here and been like, damn, Mel Kiper was right about that. I've never said that before in my life. Like, that's just like, ESPN is such a garbage organization, if we're being honest with you, because they employ people that just at this point, like, give Trevor Sycamore the job over Mel Kiper. You know what I mean? Like, just give someone like that job. Why is Mel Kiper Jr. still there? Like, you have all these young and upcoming guys, and they have such a fan base. Like, I know you're a big fan of Trevor, and you've had him on your channel a couple of times. Like, I'm sure you'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, of course I'm going to tune into whatever show he has on ESPN, like that.
I mean, he's live streaming the draft on Bleacher Report, and there's a really strong chance that I'm watching that instead of watching ESPN because I like him and I like the people. I'll just say this though. I'm really grateful that Stephen A. Smith is not doing the draft coverage. That's the one thing ESPN won't let him touch, which is ironic because he does everything else for that company.
You know what's really
I don't want to
what's
badmouth ESPN
really
just
funny?
in case they offer me a job down the line.
You know, it's nah, I'll just try. It's fine. I already know. I'm too old. I'm too old for them. They don't want me anymore. It's funny because like I'll turn on First Take like once a week, and it's so funny. I always randomly hit it because now ESPN is partners with WWE. They basically force Stephen A. Smith to talk about wrestling, and it's so funny because like Stephen A. Smith is their MVP at ESPN. It's like between him and Jason Kelsey at this point. So you know that they're like, Stephen, you have to talk about this. Like you must go out there and talk about this. And he's probably just like, all right, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but okay, go ahead. And like I think it's so funny. Every time I turn on, they're talking about WWE. I'm like, they don't want to talk about this. I'm like, why are you forcing them to talk about this?
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I mean, Mel Kiper is someone that needs to go. What's his name was another one this year. Daniel Jeremiah, I feel like was really like just phoning it in this year. Oh no, I'm sorry. Was it him or is it Todd McShay? It might be Todd McShay that I'm thinking about. Someone was just
might be McShay.
Yeah, it's McShay, and I'm not really.
McShay has gone back and forth on the Jets pick like 8 different times.
Yeah, that's who I'm thinking of. Sorry, not DJ. It was Todd McShay, and I'm just like, I don't really.
DJ's the GOAT.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really big on a lot of these guys, to be honest with you. Like, I don't really look. It's just because it's not to sound like I'm hating or anything like that. Like, I love the fact that these guys have jobs is the reason why we think that we could come on YouTube and talk about this stuff. You know, so like, if they are the pioneers, like I'm talking shit about Mel Kiper, but he's legitimately like the first guy. You know, but you know, like I just feel like so many guys this year that have those positions on these websites and on these big platforms just kind of phoned it in. I feel like, and you got young and up and coming guys that are just so good. Like Dane Brugler is like great. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't even know what the Beast is. Can you tell me what the Beast is? I have no idea what that. I see it all over my timeline and I'm just like, I don't know what this is.
It's like it's a draft guy with like over 500 players. It's an incredible resource. The amount of research that Dane does, like Dane is really incredible. I just think there's so many talented people in this space. Like you obviously like you've got your legacy media guys where like I think Field Yates is one like really good. Jordan Reed, Matt Miller at ESPN, like they're doing incredible work. You've got Daniel Jeremiah and Charles Davis. But then, like, even in the YouTube space, like, you've got us. I think the NFL Stock Exchange is doing great. I think Marcus Whitman with that franchise guy is doing really good stuff. Bro Schmo, like, there are some really, really talented people out there that make the draft what it is. And the full year-round draft content is it's never been better. It really hasn't. I'm excited about the future of where this is going.
Sorry, I'm just reading a couple of the comments that I missed recently. It's my favorite mock draft I did this year was building an all fans team made up of favorite people from Jet. That's pretty fun. My favorite mock I did this year was building an all fan team made up of my favorite people from YouTube Jets fans. That's pretty cool. Mel Kiper's first draft on TV was 1984, and it's funny because he still has like the same exact hair if you go back to that. DJ actually scouted Ray Lewis, Haloti Ngata, and a few others while in Baltimore. He is the GOAT. Yeah, I didn't mean Daniel Jeremiah. I meant Todd McShay. And then he said, and then another one was in McShay's defense. Like, I really do think it's razor close between Bain and Bailey. I would just trade out of it if I could. Yeah, honestly, I mean, if Arvell Reese didn't exist, or Fernando Mendoza didn't exist, and like Reese would probably go number 1 overall, I'd probably say just trade out of number 2. But the problem is it takes 2 to tango. You need a trade partner. And I just don't think. I think the 16th pick is probably more likely to be traded. I really would love the Jets to close that gap between number 44 and 103. Like, I think it's so awesome that they have 4 top 44 picks, but the gap needs to be closed. This roster still needs massive reconstruction. I think you need as many top 100 picks as you can get. If you could trade back from 16 to maybe like a later first round pick or even trade 33, I think 33 is going to be in high demand. I think it always is. I think 33 is certainly a pick that, it gives teams time to sleep on it, which is the best thing too, because the draft is over. The first round is over, and there is the clock stops. So it gives teams all night to negotiate, all night to figure out what players that they truly want. So I think 33 is always in very, very high demand. 44 could be in demand too, depending on how it falls. I just think it's I think the Jets do need to trade out of one of their spots, though. I don't necessarily think it should be 2 or 16. I'm kind of I'm Switzerland this year. I'm just going to let the Jets do whatever they want, and I'm just going to be fully supportive of whatever they do. I'm completely neutral because I'm trying to go into a new regime with an open mind. So I know you'll probably do that once Chris Ballard inevitably gets fired. So
yep, we'll see what happens.
ESPN should hire Brugler instead of Kuiper and just let McAfee sit on set with him during the draft. That would be pretty cool. I think it just needs a complete revamp. Another guy that I can't stand listening to, but I think is great and probably deserves a role in a front office is Louis Riddick. I can't stand listening to him because he's just such a know-it-all. But like in terms of his football knowledge and scouting ability, I feel like he's really good and he should be in some sort of front office role somewhere. But just like I can't stand like the uppity, like I know everything attitude.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to discuss? I mean, yeah, like you said, this is kind of like a straightforward, not straightforward, but like there's not too many huge storylines going into this first round this year. I feel like, I think it's just down to the fact that there's not really that many good quarterbacks. I think that's probably the reason why there's not many storylines going into it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it. I do think there's going to be a lot of stories that are going to develop as the night goes on, but heading into it, I just think, like you said earlier in the stream, it all kind of hinders on what the Jets do at 2. And after that, I think the floodgates could be open and we're going to see some chaos.
Yeah, I agree. And that's, I'm really excited for after we get past number 20. That's where I do feel like we're going to see a lot of like, trade downs and like a lot of maneuvering on the board. I think we're going to be busy. I'll answer this last question, then I'll ask you a little bit more about your process for the next couple of days, because I know we like to discuss that and, talk about certain things. What is your favorite trade back for 33? Mine is 33 for Chicago's 57 and 60. I think you would be hard pressed to get 57 and 60 for number 33. I know you're trading back 24 spots, but I think there's way too much value in that Chicago's giving up there and moving up to number 33. I have been on record as saying that I think Chicago is a few pieces away from being a true Super Bowl contender. So if there truly is someone on the defensive side or maybe a wide receiver that Ben Johnson's interested in on the offensive side, that truly will make that much of a difference. I say, hey, if that's what you have to offer to move up, you go for it. But I think a more realistic trade would either be 57 and what's their third round pick? Is it like 89 or something like that? I think it would be like 57 and 89 or 60 and 89 to move up to 33. I don't think Chicago would be willing to give up both second round picks. I think they'd actually be willing to give up future draft capital other than giving up both second rounders.
What about for Brian Thomas Jr.? 33 for Brian Thomas Jr.
You have to take it. No, I mean, I'd be 100% willing to give that up. I mean, I think I don't want to speak for other people, but I feel like you'd be such an idiot if you were the Jets. If Jacksonville came up to you and you were like, yo, you get BTJ, just give us 33. Yeah. I mean, like, but that's also tough to say because it does really seem like the Jets are looking to draft a wide receiver at 16. So, like that doesn't make too much sense there. But let's say they don't draft a wide receiver with the first 2 picks. Like, yeah, if Baltimore calls Baltimore. If Jacksonville calls and they're like, "Yo, BTJ for 33 straight up," I can't get that trade to the NFL office fast enough. Like, I think you'd be silly not to do that. What wide receiver in that range is better than Brian Thomas Jr.? That's my question. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it boils down to, right? Because at the end of the day, you're trading up assets for a player. So the way that I wouldn't trade up that asset is, well, if the player that you're offering isn't better than someone that I could draft, then I'm not going to give it up. But in that range, you're probably looking at, we'll probably see 5 receivers go in the first round, right? You would think maybe 6, depending on how people have Denzel Boston. So you'd probably right away, you'd think, Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, Casey Concepcion, Omar Cooper are probably your 5. And then maybe Denzel Boston. So like, out of everyone that's left in your top receivers, I don't think any of those guys are better than Brian Thomas Jr. So yeah, I'm taking that trade all day long. Let's see. Why are people not talking about the backup quarterback market as possible? Jesus, I can't see. Let's see. Bridge options like the Cardinals, Jets, Browns, Davis Mills, Tanner McKee, AR, guys like that. I'd rather, to be honest with you, the only player I'd rather take out of those guys than, like, I'd rather take Davis Mills instead of drafting someone, because with Davis Mills, you get a high level backup. AR is not a high level backup. Neither is Tanner McKee. Have we seen Tanner McKee play any truly like good enough football to be like, yeah, I'm willing to trade capital to take a Tanner McKee? I don't think so. Davis Mills is the only one that's actually played good enough football for I'm like, yeah, I'll give up a 4th rounder for Davis Mills to be my backup or something like that. And then BTJ plus a pick for Kyle Pitts. I'm assuming that's what that means. And
I don't know why Jacksonville would add a pick on for Kyle Pitts.
If anything, Atlanta has to add a pick to that. Yeah. Pitts finally had a decent enough season where you could definitely capitalize off of it being a weak tight end position, and him actually capitalizing on having a good enough season to trade. Yeah, I don't know why Jacksonville would give up picks for Kyle Pitts. Also, people are really sleeping on Brenton Strange. I think that he's a fine NFL tight end, and I don't think that the need for tight end in Jacksonville is nearly as big as people think it is.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, all right.
I wanted to ask you what your plan is. So I'm assuming you're going to do like first round grades or something, and like a mock draft after the first round's over.
Yeah, I'm going to do a first round grades tonight, and then we're going to do a day 2 mock draft that will be going up. So stay tuned for that. And then I've also got my on Saturday, there's going to be crap ton of content for you guys. You guys are going to get my big steals, my big reaches in the draft, my overall grades. You're going to get my top undrafted free agents. And then on Sunday, we'll put a bow on it. We're going to do the way too early 2027 mock draft. I'm going to take a week or so off and just recoup, watch some tape, and start working on this website, which you guys can check out on my pinned comment on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I definitely think a break is 100% needed. I do have quite a big summer coming up for myself in terms of career-wise and travel and everything. So I might be heard from a little bit less in the summertime, but it's for good reason. And once I get everything sorted, I'm really looking to do more of those. People aren't familiar with the prospect interviews from a couple of years ago, because that was a different channel. But I'm really looking forward to getting some of those prospect interviews out. I genuinely have a really good time talking to these guys, learning their stories and kind of putting it out there, because at the end of the day, like, a really good conversation is very interesting, especially when there's nothing else to watch. And then of course the NFL content, you know how it goes. But yeah, this is a big weekend. I'm planning on grades right after the first round. I don't know if I'm going to be doing a mock draft, depending on what time I'm done with the grade video, because I'm an old man and I'm gassed, and I've also been up since 5 a.m. already. So, and I've had people over my house, and it's going to be tough to kick those guys out too. Uh,
Yeah.
so, going to be a lot going on there. But depending on what time I get done, I might do a mock draft. I might do it tomorrow morning and just put it up then as well, just to kind of get something out. And then I don't know what I'm going to do after day 2. I was thinking of doing maybe like the best remaining players for day 3, or maybe doing like biggest steals up until I usually do the biggest steals and the biggest reaches after the draft is over. I might do that. I might put up all 3 of those videos like at the same time. Might do like final grades for the draft. Might do reaches, might do steals. I don't really know how I want to do it. It depends on how crazy the draft gets. If there's a lot of noteworthy things to talk about, then maybe I'll switch around the upload schedule. And then I was going to do a 2027 mock draft. I'm still kind of, just truth be told, I don't really, not that I don't know about the prospects. I'm just not really entirely sure. I have to like reshuffle all the needs of all the teams. Then you have to look and see like what the depth chart might look like in the future. There's a lot that goes into it. As obviously Josiah knows, there's a lot that goes into it. So, that might be a little bit tough right away. That might be something I do maybe like a week or 2 down the line. But, and then my last video for the 2026 draft cycle will be the best undrafted free agents left. So that's usually what I end off on. And yeah, man, it's going to be excited. I'm sure that we're going to talk a ton tonight. And obviously we're going to be talking a lot, over the next couple of days. So I'm really, really excited to see what exactly happens. And I wish the best for your Indianapolis Colts. I hope
I
Chris
wish the
Ballard
best for
finally.
your Jets.
Yeah, it's not
Don't
going to
waste
happen.
that 16th pick.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Take care of them.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, to everyone that's still in this, I appreciate you guys. Just came on just to answer some questions, just to talk about a little draft stuff, some rumors. I wish there was more rumors to talk about, but yeah, just wanted to get something out to you guys, and kind of wish everyone. George Pickens is signing the franchise tag, by the way. I just got that notification that came through, so I guess he will be playing on the franchise tag. That's a massive W for the Cowboys then at that point. But
I mean, they could still trade him.
No, they
I'm
absolutely
not putting anything past them.
Yeah, they definitely can still trade him. But getting back to it, I hope everyone has a great time, watching the draft. I hope your team drafts who exactly you want, and you're going to be hearing a lot from us from the next few days. So stay tuned.
Sir.
There's a lot of content. Thank everyone for watching. I hope you guys enjoy, and happy draft day to you all. Gotta end it. Can't end it. I think I ended it. Oh, there we go.